Dan woke with a song looping through his mind. Its tune, low and slow, seemed familiar. He lay on his back for a few moments, listening to the notes and trying to place where he'd heard it before. It felt connected to his childhood. Is it from a kid's TV show, maybe? He glanced to his left. His girlfriend Jenny was still asleep. He moved to wake her, and then remembered that it was a Saturday and she could sleep in. Dan sighed and rolled out of the bed, slipped his shoes on and shuffled to the bathroom. As he brushed his teeth, he found himself tapping his left hand on the sink in time with the song's beats. It was bothering him that he couldn't place it. It had a very specific tune, and he knew it meant something, or was used for something, or started something. But what? By the time Jenny came out of the bedroom, Dan was already nearing the end of his second bowl of cereal. She bent low over the table to see his face and gave him a warm smile. "What's buzzing round your bonnet this morning?" You look really preoccupied with something. And I know cereal nutritional information can't hold your attention that thoroughly." Dan laughed and replaced the cereal box on the table. "Sorry, I've just got a song in my head. I'm trying to figure out where it's come from." "Sing some for me. I might recognise it." Dan had never been at all musically inclined. He couldn't remember words, hold a tune, or recognise major keys from minor. The song in his head was so intricate and unique that he was certain he wouldn't be able to express it, but as he hummed the notes, he felt great surprise and pleasure as it perfectly matched what was in his head. "Don't sing any more," Jenny said after a moment. Her expression had changed to one of wary distaste. "It's an awful song." Dan cut the tune short, feeling a surge of frustration. It felt somehow disrespectful and wrong not to complete the tune, like only singing half of the national anthem. "Why? Do you know what it is?" "No," Jenny said, sitting opposite him and pouring herself a bowl of cereal. Her face was still scrunched up, as though she'd smelt something bad. It's just really depressing. Like a funeral dirge, but worse." "I think I remember it from when I was a kid, like from a children's TV show or something." Jenny laughed at that, though the sound wasn't as warm as Dan normally found it. "Wow, it'd have to be a pretty rotten kids' show to include something like that. Come on, let's not talk about it anymore. What have you got planned for today?" "I promised Mum I'd visit her to change a busted light bulb." Dan drained the last dregs from his bowl to avoid speaking again. The song was still cycling through his mind, and he felt certain if he could just focus on it for long enough, he'd remember where he knew it from. After Jenny had finished her breakfast, Dan kissed her goodbye and headed for the car. He only lived 5 minutes away from his mother, which he was grateful for. She was getting older, and the little things, like replacing light bulbs and mowing the lawn, were becoming increasingly difficult for her. As he drove, he turned on the radio. He recognised the song that came on as a country ballad that he'd always enjoyed before, but on that day it seemed impossibly shallow and too preppy to tolerate. He turned off the radio and let the tune in his head wash over him again. "That's a real song," he found himself thinking as the notes looped endlessly through his mind. "It's got depth and heart and meaning." By the time he reached his mother's house, he was humming the song again and enjoying the way he could reproduce the chords perfectly. Dan's mother greeted him with a hug and a warm kiss. He wasn't sure if he was still growing or if she was shrinking, but she seemed to be getting smaller with each visit. She led him into the kitchen, where the bulb above the sink had blown the night before. "This'll be fixed in a jiffy," Dan said, drawing a chair under the light, whilst his mother put the kettle on. Even though the task would only take him a moment, Dan knew he wasn't likely to leave the house for a solid hour or two. His mother always loved company, and he could spend an entire afternoon talking to her about trivial matters and gossiping while they ate biscuits and drank tea. As he unscrewed the light bulb, Dan began humming the tune again. The kettle finished boiling, but his mother didn't pour the water into the cups. He finished screwing the light in and hopped down from the chair to test the switch. The light came on without a problem, and Dan turned to his mother with a huge smile. "How about that?" He realised something was wrong as soon as he caught a glimpse of his mother's face. Blood had drained from her skin, and her eyes were wide and tear-filled. Dan rushed to her and tried to help her into a seat. "Are you okay? What happened? Do you feel dizzy?" "You're singing that song again," was all she said. She let Dan ease her into the kitchen chair, and he hurried to make her a cup of tea. She seemed to be gathering her thoughts, and when Dan drew a chair up next to her, she took a deep and seemingly resolved breath. "Do you know what you were humming?" "No, I woke up with it in my head this morning. I kind of remember it from when I was a kid, but I can't recall what it is." "It's an old Scandinavian morning song." His mother traced patterns on the table's wood with her index finger and seemed to be picking her words carefully. "It's not really ever sung anymore, even in Scandinavia. I didn't recognize it. Your great-aunt did. She grew up in Scandinavia, do you remember? She heard you the second time you began humming it and told me what it was." "Second time?" "Yes. You've only sung it twice. Once when you were 5, and again when you were 8. His mother raised her eyes, which flickered uncertainly over his face. "The first time was the morning your grandfather passed away. The second was the day before your father died." Dan stared at his mother, unsure of what to say, unsure of what could be said, as the song looped through his head relentlessly.